Hi class, in the last session, we had a brief introduction about biomaterials. Today, we shall discuss the properties of a biomaterial. For example, what is it that is required for a particular material to become a biomaterial, right? So biomaterial, like I said in the last video, should be biocompatible, biofunctional, bioactive, bioinert, and sterilizable. All bios. So what do you mean by biocompatible? Basically, anything that gets into our body is considered like if it is not the body's own organ, then it is considered as a foreign body. So, when you are implanting a biomaterial inside the human body, the body first of all treats it as a foreign body. However, if the material that is selected is such that it doesn't cause any adverse reaction in the body, then it is accepted by the body, and that is called as biocompatibility. Now, biocompatibility comprehends with different properties of the material. For example, if it is inserted inside the human body, it shouldn't cause any toxicity. That is, it shouldn't react with the fluid surrounding the material and release toxins. Or it shouldn't cause damage to the tissues nearby. The material is definitely going to come in contact with tissues surrounding it, so it shouldn't damage the tissues. The blood vessels or the blood that comes into contact with your biomaterial should not get affected. It should be blood compatible. It shouldn't be such that it is causing coagulation of blood or it is releasing toxins inside the blood or something like that. And biofunctionality, that is, it should mimic the functions of the organ that it is replacing or augmenting. So biofunctionality, like I said, is it is essential for the material to perform the functions to which it is designed for. That is, if it is replacing a particular organ, then it should mimic that organ. For example, if you are replacing the mitral valve, the biomaterial the biomaterial should be able to be elastic enough to replace the mitral valve and should not affect the cardiac function, right? For materials of long-lasting biofunctionality, it should not degrade when come in contact with the tissue because that would partially lose its functionality. Physical and mental, like the elasticity, it shouldn't be like a rubber band, right? When you keep stretching the rubber band, okay, the rubber band just keeps expanding, and at one point of time, it totally loses its elasticity. The biomaterial should not be like that, right? Imagine what happens if the heart valve loses its elasticity. That's precisely why the valve is getting replaced. If the replacement has the same issue, then what is the point, right? For metals, it should not be corrosive. Often the metals they start releasing corrosive. They corrode inside the body fluid, and that can result in carcinogenesis. That is, cancer-causing cells. So that shouldn't happen if it is a case of a metal. Now, what is bioactivity? So, if it is a material that is, for example, here I've taken the material as something that is coming in contact with bones. So when this material comes in contact with the bone, it should promote the bone growth. For example, there's a fracture, and you're using a biomaterial to correct the fracture, right? You're doing a surgery to correct the fracture, and then you use materials such as calcium phosphate, hydroxyapatite, or calcium phosphate compound-based glasses or vitroceramics for correction for remodeling the bone, right? Or the hip joint, for example, someone has had a hip fracture, so these are like commonly used to form the head of the hip implant. Now, this should be bioactive such that it should, generate chemical bonds, and it should facilitate the bone growth because this is like it's not like we're fixing a rod of steel or something. This is like a bioactive material which should facilitate the ossification process. I mean, for young adults, right? For young people, this is very, very essential. For someone who's very old, their bone is not going to ossify, right? But for a young individual, say around a 15, 16-year-old individual, then the bone ossification is not totally complete. So there are still chances that the bone might grow. So in those kind of situations, a material which is bioactive will facilitate the bone growth. Therefore, the symmetry of the body will be maintained. So bioinert material, basically it shouldn't react. It should be totally inert to anything. Like no matter what you throw at it, it just doesn't give any reaction. It should be like that. It's a material that is sitting inside your body, not causing any chemical reaction with any of the components that is present inside the human body. It should just be quiet and do its work. That is a bioinert material, and that is the bioinert property of a material. And of course, sterilizable. Like I said, who would want to use an unsterile device and face the aftermath? Now, there are very good chances that if the biomaterial is not properly sterilized, then you can have surgical site infections, you can develop septicemia. So these are life-threatening consequences of surgical site infection, right? So and so it is very essential that whatever you are implanting inside the human body is very sterile, and that sterilization, during the process of sterilization, the property of the material should not be changed. If you're using some proteins, or even plastic bottles, right? If you pour extremely hot water in plastic bottle, it just deforms, right? So our biomaterial should not be like that. You're just sterilizing it in boiling water. It went in as an implant and came out as molten plastic, then that is irrelevant. It's of no use for us. So it should maintain its characteristics even after subjected to sterilization procedures. I shall see you in next class with more of biomaterials. Thank you very much.